I was watching my Chinese drama, and there was a scene of the female lead. She was holding a knife. Well, how it started was the villain was attacking her, and the female lead was holding a knife. Well, she pulled out a knife, right? And the villain had a rope, and he was pulling his rope out like this. And she had a knife, and she all she did was show the knife to him. And I was sitting there, and I was like, "Girl, just slash the rope." Anyways, of course she wouldn't slash the rope because how else would the male lead come in and save her? Anyways, welcome back to my channel. I am in my own walls, I am in your walls, and I am in everybody else's walls. Have I gone out the wall yet? No. Honestly, every intro is just me going, I wish I would be out of the walls. But it's a work in progress. Well, I am happy to announce that we're finally on the final part of the forum thing. Yes, yes. And heads up, these stories are a bit longer than all of the other stories that in the other parts. I'm just glad that this is the final part so I can finally move on with my life. Everybody move on with their life, and excited to research and look for new sites to read to you guys. I think this is probably the earliest I've ever filmed. Because right now it is 10:27. So 10:30 a.m. in the morning, as you can see, because the sunlight is what's giving this video quality. I do want to test run and try to film at night and use a ring light that I have and see if I can achieve the same quality, so then I can just film whenever I want or whenever I'm available. Because filming in the morning sometimes is a hassle since I do a lot of things during the daytime. In the nighttime, I feel like it is better for when I'm reading horror stories because then I'll be scared better. Also, I don't have my glasses at the moment, and the camera is set way further than I would like it to. So I can't really see if I'm in focus or not. Hopefully it stays focused throughout the entire video. And then I noticed last video I did not have my signature purple light in the background because it ran out of battery and I didn't even notice. But now I do. So I feel like home again. I feel like it's my own closet. Well, it's always been my own closet. Anyways, I don't know what I'm saying. Clearly, I still haven't snapped out of the sleep that I was in. Well, I woke up at like 7 a.m. today, and then I did a lot of stuff, and then now I'm here. But I need to get this over with so I can go do more stuff. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. We have 5 stories left, and they're very long. I mean, on my phone, they don't look that long, but every time I read it out, it's just. First story: Horror of the Known, Bliss in Ignorance. Sometimes in life, it is not what we do not know that scares us the most, but rather the confirmation of our worst fears. The terror of knowing what is to come may outweigh the fright of what may be. With that said, I offer you the chance to save your sanity. What will be told herein is the secret to learning of your death. If your mind is frail, if your heart has skipped a beat, even at the thought of knowing, please leave now. I will hold no sorrow, pity, nor guilt if your sanity shatters when visions of your future demise plague your mind. You've been warned. Still here? Good to see you've steeled yourself. You're a fool, no doubt. But I couldn't care less while you're still reading. I'm still reading because this is my job. Okay? This is my content. I'm sorry. May God have pity on you. Read the following instructions carefully. Do it multiple times if need be. When you have the actions in order memorized, you are ready. Begin by immersing yourself in darkness. Feel the comfort of its blanket around you. Close your eyes. Relax your body if you can. You would need to build a mental image in your head. Face whose features seem emaciated, skin pale, as though it's decaying, His lips are tightly bound together by thin steel wire stitching. His gaze is empty and seems to pierce through you 100 yards away. Begin repeating the word morte constantly, yet slowly in your head. Let it echo through the halls of your mind. Allow your subconscious take over. The face will slowly contort into a macabre smile. As it stretches, it will pull against the stitches, keeping them sealed until each suture tears through the lips, leaving a bleeding, wretch grin beaming right at you. Soon, blood will flow out of his mouth at an unreal rate. Don't expect the smile to go away. Eventually, he will speak. Be patient. It may take some time. Only one word will be said. Morte. He will take his time to finish the word. Once it is complete, and only then, may you open your eyes. Pay careful attention to your body. If you feel nothing, you are a supremely lucky person. You will die of old age. If it is hard to breathe, however, your death will be painful. It is not the worst you can suffer, though. If your skin crawls, if you suddenly feel cold, if a tingle traverses your spine, your death will be of horror indescribable. Slow, excruciating, and torturous. No matter what feeling you experience, however, within the next week, the exact occurrence of your death will visit you in your sleep. The dream will be of hyper-realistic detail, like nothing you've ever experienced before. You may fall into a coma for a short while, leaving the dream ad infinitum, but don't worry, you will wake up, if only to suffer the death you envisioned. No, thank you. I feel like I don't need to know all of that. What do you feel like? Because do you want to know how you die, or like how you, well, based on the story, how you envisioned your death? Because why would you want to do that? People confuses me because there are things that you don't know, and it's better that way, right? So why are you seeking? I get it, you might be curious, and it might be a eye-opening, euphoric moment for you, but I feel like it's unnecessary for you to be seeking out your own danger, because it really could just be avoidable if you didn't do anything, didn't go out looking for it, right? If you guys are interested, try this and let me know, because I am curious, but I'm more curious about what other people going through. Not me though. I'm good. I'm fine with what I'm going through. I don't need to know what's in store for me in the future. We're good on that, right? Yeah. Talking about games though, since this is setting up like some sort of game, like they got instructions, maybe I should do a video on reading horror games. Yeah, like I know the elevator game is one, and then Bloody Mary, is that a game? Would that count as a game? I don't know, but that would be an interesting video. I should look into that. Next story. Come Resurrection. Hello, beautiful. If you can read this, please listen to my confession. You probably don't know me, but I've known you for a very long time. And I don't know if I should say this yet, but I love you. I do. I love you. I do. I really do. I love you so much that I built your entire world for you, so you may live on and on and on. I built it just after I met you. You are so beautiful lying there with your dreamy eyes tenderly shut, your near translucent skin, which seemed to be growing paler and paler by the second. The way your limbs were twisted, delicately mangled at the joints to form such an unearthly vision of vulnerability. Oh, that must have been such a long fall. Not only did the building possess incredible height, but I know how the most glorious of angels must fall the furthest. Oh, my angel, my contorted angel on the pavement. Your soft flesh had been scraped away in just the right places, revealing your inner body's artistic formation. No one could ever appreciate such a sight but I. No one but I could ever admire the curvature of your neck, bent a perfect 90 degrees to the right and twisted around twice, and only twice. As soon as I saw you there, I just had to reach out and touch you. I shivered in anticipation as I traced my fingers down your body, right to where it was already beginning to split. It stunned me with excitement, making me wonder at every second whether you'll burst apart. And I carried you. I was ever so careful, making sure I didn't damage what was left of your body. Some fragments of your skull fell out on the way, but I was quick to push them back in. Don't worry, you were still in one piece when I brought you home. I brought you to lay on my bed, shattered arms crossed over your chest. You looked just like the pretty corpses in old fairy tales. Even more so when I dressed you in my mother's wedding gown. I took out my spell book, ready to resurrect you. But no, the time wasn't right. I was afraid I would frighten you away, so I created your afterlife, one just like the world you knew. Then I could keep loving you and your wounds, for what could be eternity. But I think you're ready to be revived now, to gaze upon the blackened eyes of me, your savior from below. You will live again, with love and beauty that will never die, as your wounds will always be fresh, and your bones just as mingled as they were when I met you. You'll be able to feel my touch for the first time, our fluids mingling together, your cold blood. Don't worry, my love. I'll be just as gentle as I've always been. First of all, you got mommy issues. Why are you dressing me in your mom's wedding gown? What are you trying to say? Second of all, you need therapy for your mommy issues and for, I'm assuming, constantly killing me and resurrecting me. Leave me alone. Even in death, I have to suffer. How terrible. You know what? At least I die. At least there's no soul to be felt from me. That's so awful. Imagine you died and then your body still have to go through this torturous thing from another human being. Well, I don't even know if that's a human being. Entity, right? If it's an entity, makes sense because they're weird. They're not human, so I don't know what they think. How they think. Do they even think? But if it's not a human being, bro, just let me go. That rhymes. What is it so hard about letting go? You can't be that obsessed. That's, well, if you think about it, if somebody loved me that much, maybe. My leg fell asleep. I went to stop recording so I can record the second footage because my camera could only record for 30 minutes long. So then I usually just stop recording like 5 minutes before I hit 30 minutes or like 10 minutes before I hit 30 minutes. So then it won't cut off while I'm in the middle of reading. And I caught up and this pain just shooting into my bones. I thought I was about to die. Anyways, next story. Dreams. Nobody ever goes to sleep of their own accord. Even as a young child, you aim to stay awake as long as you can. But for some reason, you always succumb to sleep. You always fall into the deep slumber. The slumber that lasts for only seconds, yet somehow takes up hours of time. That slumber that holds visions. Visions of neither the past, present, or future. Visions that somehow escape your memory. Visions that you always wake up from. Some vision seems good. Happy dreams, although they never seem enjoyable. Or do they? You probably can't remember the last time you had a good dream. You probably can't remember what it was about. You definitely can't remember the end. These are the kinds of visions that you want to have, or at least you would rather have this kind of dream than the other kind. Who wouldn't? These kinds of dreams are always interrupted. There's never an end to a good dream. Something always happens to wake you. You always want to see the end of the dream. The next night you succumb to deep slumber. You wish you could see the end of the good dream. The other kind of dream is much different. These are the bad dreams, the nightmares, as they called. Nobody wants to have a nightmare. These bad dreams are frightening. You awake from these dreams by your own accord, somewhat. Nothing in a nightmare is ever finished. You never hit the ground after a fall. You never get a chance to escape what was coming for you. You never get to die. Nobody ever goes to sleep of their own accord. As a baby, you learn to dislike nightmares and to like the good dreams. As a baby, you sleep often. They are teaching you the basics of sleep. The good and bad dreams, it doesn't take long to learn. They create the good dreams, the dreams you are eager to see every night, yet you don't know why. You are very lucky that the others are there to protect you. The others create the bad dreams, the so-called nightmares. You should be grateful they corrupt your mind at an early age. They are always able to find you first, when you are most vulnerable. Because of this, the others are forced to try to convert you. They need to find a way to stop you from having good visions. The others are not your enemies, even though they take away what you want. The others make sure that you never see the end of a good dream. But the others are not always successful. The others create the bad dreams in order to shorten time you spend slumbering. Those few moments you spend sleeping are the most dangerous you'll ever have. The nightmares are warnings. The nightmares try to awaken you, try to keep you from sleeping. However, they are much larger in number. They always find you before you can get to the end of a nightmare. They interrupt the bad dreams. You are thankful for this. Don't be. They don't want you to see the truth. They are the people who insist on you slumbering. They are the parents, the guardians. You never seen a good reason to sleep. They insist that it is needed. They insist that it isn't healthy not to sleep. You always feel fine without sleep until they find you again. They give you that tired, sleepy feeling. They urge you to sleep. They are drawing you in. The bad dreams are good. The good dreams are bad. The good dreams are how they lure you in. The good dreams are the pathway to death. If that is what you will call it. Death is widespread. Everyone dies. Many thousands of people die every day, yet they still do not have enough. Many millions of them are born every second. They are everywhere. They need more. Playthings. They are not to be trusted. Do not listen to them. They want you to see the end of the good dream. At the end of a good dream is them. They are everywhere. They are the germs, the disease, the sleepy feeling, the want for another good dream. They are the doctors or nurses who sedate you. They are the calmness and the quiet that soothe you. They are the darkness and the air that surrounds you. Please don't trust them. They want to deceive you. They want to enslave you. You will wish that you were really buried under the ground, safe in your coffin. Sadly, the others cannot get to everyone before they see the end of the good dream. Sadly, all the people around you that you are told to respect are part of them. Don't do what they say. You will regret it. Pray to be saved by a nightmare. Pray to awaken during your good dreams. Pray to stay awake. Stay awake. Nobody goes to sleep of their own accord. But you look very sleepy. Why don't you just rest your eyes a bit? I'm sure it will make you feel better. I'll see you again when you awake. I don't know, man. Sleep is nice. Maybe they got me. Maybe they really got me. When I was younger, I did not want to sleep at all, right? Like you would want to stay up to watch your show, to play more games. You do not want to sleep. You hate it. But as I grew older, life is tiring and I always want to sleep. In fact, I've been napping a lot for the past week for some reason. I'm that exhausted. It's like mentally I'm exhausted, physically I'm exhausted, and I need sleep. Look, man, thank you. Thank you for looking out for me, but I can't just quit sleep. Too important. Way too important. I feel like sleeping is my only escape. Maybe that is the good dreams this person is talking about. This entity person. I don't know. What are you? But how do I know that you're also trying to keep me from sleeping because you also want to deceive me? I don't know that. So honestly, you really don't know. You really don't know if the good dreams are deceiving you or the bad dreams are deceiving you. So do whatever you want. If you want to stay up, stay up. If you want to sleep, sleep. It don't matter. At this point, what matters? What even matters at this point? I don't even know. I don't even know. Next story. Hangman. He jumped as the vibrating of his cell phone echoed throughout the dark, lonely house. Hello? Listen to the sound of my voice. This is important, replied a whisper. What? 10 men in 10 trees, white and tall. 10 men with 10 nooses watched them fall. 10 men with no air left to them. 10 men dead men in the end. A shiver ran up his spine, but before he could say anything, the whisper returned. Don't ever forget that. And with that, the whisper terminated the phone call. Panic set in. David sat paralyzed in his chair. His arms wouldn't move. No, his arms couldn't move. Something weighed them down. He heard the sound of his front door opening. He screamed at the top of his lungs for help, but no sound came out. He writhed his body as much as he could, but it did no help. The sound of footsteps walking downstairs echoed through the house. David knew he was home alone. He's been the only one living here since his girlfriend died 3 months ago. He tried to kick his legs and hope he could fling himself from this prison. Footsteps could be heard coming up the staircase, light, as if the mover didn't want to be heard. It has to be a killer or something, David thought to himself. A dark shadow came across the doorway, and soon its owner too appeared. It wasn't tall, but neither was it short. His trench coat hid his body physique. And despite keeping his face in the shadows, David knew he was being stared at. His eyes traced down the figure standing before him, until something caught his notice. In this intruder hand was a snake. No, not a snake, David decided. A rope. A noose. The whisper spoke. 10 men swing back and forth in the sky. 10 men who were duped by someone's lie. 10 men with families who never said bye. 10 men, dead men, makes you cry. The figure loosened the noose on the end of the rope and began to slip it over David's head. David tried with all his might to move, but his body was trapped. All that was left to do was try to scream. And he couldn't even do that. Wake up! It's just a nightmare. Stop screaming. It wasn't real. Zeus! Damn it, David. This is getting old, said a frantic female voice. The world was trembling. All right, I'm up. Stop shaking me, honey. Stop shaking me. I'm up, David said, making a half-hearted attempt to remove his girlfriend's hands from his shoulder. The hangman again? Asked Liz. Yeah, 2 weeks straight. I can't get him out of my head. Everywhere I go now, I see a reference to hanging. He had 2 new rhythms last night. I think I'm going crazy. David decided it was best not to tell her that she was dead in his dream. We'll try to have a good day at work today. You're going to be a little late if you don't hurry and get dressed to leave. Sorry, I couldn't wake you no matter how hard I tried. David rushed through his shower and threw on his uniform and ran out the door. Liz called after him as he ran by her. I'm going shopping today. I'll hang you when I get home. Did she just say hang? No, that wouldn't make sense. She definitely said see. David turned on the radio on his way to work to listen to his favorite talk show host. Welcome back to my channel. I'm just kidding. Welcome back to 94 The Tour, where we take you on a journey through the lives of everyday people. First caller is a man who wished to remain anonymous. You're on Sketchball. A whisper emitted from the car speakers. In the tree so up high. Can't believe they went there to die. I guess it's better to hang in the sky than shoved in an oven and left to fry. David nearly swerved off the road as the whisper completed the rhyme. He turned up the radio to hear more, but that was all. DJ Chef was back. What a wonderful experience, folks. I wish I had the guts to climb the Himalayas like that man. Next caller, please. That had nothing to do with the Himalayas. Did Chef not just hear that? What's going on? David pulled into the parking lot of his work, trying to convince himself that he momentarily dozed off and dreamed of Hangman being on the radio. Dazed, he got out of his car and went into work. David, you can't keep coming to work late like this, man. You know people love their coffee smoothies in the morning. Sorry, Steve. Had trouble waking up, David said while pulling over the apron with the store's logo on it. It's alright, dude. Let's just hope boss doesn't find out you keep coming late. He might hang you, said Steve as he handed a smoothie latte to a disgruntled looking customer. What's up with everyone and hanging lately? Everywhere I go, all I ever hear is nooses and hanging. Crap's gotta stop. What do you mean, man? I was just joking. I didn't mean he was actually going to hang you. If anything, he'll probably fry you. Dave tried to force a laugh. Yeah, I guess I'm just a little edgy. I've been having nightmares almost every night now for a few weeks. Always has to do with hanging. That sucks, man. You need a vacation or some crap. Just get out of town. Go camping or something. Actually, that sounds pretty good. You want to go on a hike or something this weekend? I remember hearing about this sweet trail the other day. Plus, I want to get a final hike before the cold sets in. Sure, I'm down with that. I love hanging out with you, dude. On the drive home, David was hesitant to listen to the radio after this morning's episode, but the silence of the car left way too much room for thinking. As he reached to turn on the radio, a tingling sensation ran up his leg as his phone vibrated in his pocket. Hello? Hey, Dave, it's me, said the sweet voice that could only belong to Liz. Can you swing by the middle school and pick up my nephew Kyle? My sister got caught up at work. Yeah, sure, no problem, sweetie. Oh, and Liz, me and Steve are thinking of going on a nature hike tomorrow and Sunday. Hopefully the peacefulness will quell these nightmares. Sounds like a great idea. I'll be home at 5. See you then. David pulled into the middle school just as the kids came bursting out the door. They were running all over the place, screaming and playing. David could barely remember what it was like to be excited about a Friday. He watched 3 girls play jump rope nearby, entranced as the jump rope went up and down, up and down. The sing-song melody of the girls sounded like your typical preteen girl jump rope song, one that is easy to sing along to. David found himself mouthing the words to the song even though he couldn't hear it. Dead man hanging in a tree. How many dead men do you see? 1, 2, 3. David broke out into a cold sweat. There's no way those girls were singing that. David continued to watch as the girls twirled their noose around the young girl jumping in the middle. Did they even realize what they were playing with? A loud, annoying knocking on his window drew him out of his trance. Uncle Dave, unlock the door, shouted little Kyle. That kid looked way too young to be in 7th grade. Dave looked back at the girls, but they were gone. He turned around to look at Kyle. Hey, buddy, do you see those girls jump roping over there? Don't be silly, Uncle Dave. No one jump ropes in middle school. That's for 3rd graders. Well, despite what little Kyle thinks, David definitely saw what he saw and, more importantly, heard what he heard. The car ride back to Kyle's house was relatively silent except for the occasional awkward coughs by Kyle. Have a good weekend, bud, David said as he unlocked the car doors. Thanks for the ride, Uncle Dave, said Kyle as he closed the car door and ran back into his house, pushing a tire swing out of the way as he ran across the front lawn. David watched as the tire swing swung back and forth, wobbling as if about to fall. David sat there and stared through the circle until it finally hit the ground. David snapped back to reality and pulled out of the driveway. With a final glance over his shoulder, he could swear that the rope that was holding the tire swing looked peculiarly similar to a noose. David awoke with a jolt. With his eyes still closed, he stretched out his arms, but was met with the shocking cold of a window. He opened his eyes to reveal that he was sitting in a dark, cold car. His dark, cold car. The moon was already high in the sky. He must have dozed off when he pulled up in his driveway after dropping off Kyle. He knew Liz was going to be pissed, but as he stepped out of his car, he realized Liz wasn't there. He tried calling for her, but all he got was an answering machine. David wrapped his jacket around himself as he walked into his apartment. "Hey Liz, you home?" he shouted. Silence. "Think, David, did she say anything about going out tonight?" David checked his cell phone for the time. 9:15 p.m. She must have gone out for the night when she realized I wasn't coming home. Maybe she assumed I was leaving for the hiking trip tonight. That would seem the most logical. It would be a good idea to leave her a message asking to be called back anyways. David picked a movie out of his collection and put it on. As the previews played, he decided he'll call Steve to double check about the hiking trip. "Hey Steve, it's David. Still game for the trip?" "Hey David, yeah, I was just packing now. Did you ask Liz if she wanted to come?" "Nah, I couldn't find her. I think she is hanging with some friends tonight, or maybe her sister." "It seems like everyone is hanging somewhere this weekend. I called up my girlfriend and asked her if she wanted to come. Never picked up her phone. Called her like 6 times too. I also called the boss to tell him I can't work this weekend. He never picked up. I guess tonight's a big party night." "Haha, it must be. Well, I guess it's just you and me then. Well, I gotta go pack myself. I'll pick you up tomorrow." "Where is everyone?" David wondered out loud. He packed all the clothes he needed as quickly as possible, and then hopped into bed for a good night's rest. Hopefully, there'll be no more nightmares. Fun, fun, fun for me. Fun for you, you will see. The tree is there, the noose is set. They walk into it like fish in a net. Laughter began that didn't stop till morning. Laughter and darkness. David woke up at 3. The sun couldn't be up till at least 7. He lied in his bed and stared at his clock as the figure in the corner stared at him. "You look like crap, man." "Thanks, Steve. Let's just get in the car and go." The rumble of the engine shook off the little bit of frost on the hood. The silent purr of the engine cruised down the street into the rising sun. Steve slept as David stared down the road into the wilderness of the forest. The colorful leaves of the trees slowly fell the grassy floor, and wind caused the branches to wave at the travelers as they passed. It was going to be a good day, Dave thought to himself. As they traveled along the bumpy dirt road into the forest, Steve began to wake. "Hey man, how close are we?" "Probably about 5 or so minutes from the starting point." "What's the starting point look like? I can help you look for it." "There's an area where there's no trees with leaves, and there's a big one at the center." Steve began to lean back in his chair, but something made his eyes suddenly widen. "Hey David, another car has already traveled down here recently. Look, you can see the tracks. Maybe we'll see some other hangers." "Other hangers, Steve?" "I said hikers. Man, those dreams really have you worked up, don't they? Look, there's a few trees whose leaves have already fallen off. Now look for a really big tree that stands above the rest." The great tree rose before them, as did another object that was dwarf in size compared to the tree. "Hey, what's that in front of the tree?" Steve said, pointing at what looked like to be a small Honda Explorer. In fact, it was a Honda Explorer, Dave noted. He knew that car. "That's Liz's car. What's she's doing here?" Dave said as he pulled up next to it. "I'm gonna stop here and check it out. You can get out and go stretch." Steve got out of the car and walked behind the Explorer. He noticed a length of rope tied to the back. "Hey Dave, I'm gonna see where this leads." Steve started walking towards the big tree, while Dave was searching through the Honda for a sign of Liz. David opened the glove compartment where a small yellow sticky note fell. Meanwhile, Steve followed the rope and found it to be attached to the bottom of a ladder. A ladder was at the base of the big tree. "Hey David, come look at this," shouted Steve as he started climbing. At the top of the ladder, Steve found the perfect practical joke to play on David. The note was written in handwriting quite similar to his own. He never knew Liz's handwriting was so much like his. But what David read made David forget all about the handwriting. David could hear Steve's voice calling him. "Oh, help, David, I'm being hung. The noose is so tight around my neck." David looked back in a fright to see Steve standing at the top of the ladder with a noose around his neck, and Steve was laughing. David turned to the note. "Steve is the hangman. Drive fast and far away." David got into the car, put the keys into the ignition, and pulled it into drive. In his rear view mirror, he could see a body swaying back and forth as a ladder was being dragged behind the car. And to his left, he saw Kyle and his parents, while on the right were his own parents. As he traveled and looked at the sights, he saw his boss and Steve's girlfriend too. He passed two more on his way out, but neither he knew. And then just as he began to turn out, he saw a beauty swaying in the wind. He waved up at her, believing she smiled, but deep down he knew that Liz would smile no more. And David sang as he drove along. 10 men in 10 trees, white and tall. 10 men with 10 nooses watched them fall. 10 men with no air left to them. 10 men, dead men, in the end. It really be your own friends. Who need enemies when you have friends like this? When you have friends like Steve. Steve just out here hanging people and terrorizing David. Well, in a sense, David is like foreseeing it. Like he dreamt about it, and he just haven't figured out who's the hangman, but he dreamt about those 10 people's deaths for weeks. So is David, wow, David have superpowers. More of the story is it really be your own people. Honestly speaking though, throughout the whole entire story that I was reading, I did not suspect Steve at all. I was thinking that it was like some kind of entity, you know? I always think it's some kind of entity because that makes sense. Totally makes sense. I would never think there's another person. But maybe Steve is possessed by an entity. There you go. So then we round back to it being an entity and not a human being. But human beings are also scary. Human beings does very, very, very evil things. And this is why I stay home. Yeah. The less friends I have, the less problems. I don't have to worry about any of my close friends hanging people, for that matter. And I don't need to worry any of them trying to hang me too. But that is so cool that David could see the vision, like he dreamt of it. He just needed to take his dream seriously, which he did. Like throughout the story, you can tell that he was taking it seriously. But in the end, he didn't suspect Steve, like me. He didn't suspect Steve into the note. Because Steve just because the way the story is written, Steve seems like a very unimportant character. Like it was somebody for David to take on to this hiking trip. It was David's coworker. Like Steve didn't really rung the bell to me that he could be important, because I was so stuck on the idea of an entity harming David that Steve was like out of the question. And that's on me. That's really on me. What do you think? Was Steve possessed, or was Steve just crazy like that? A psychopath, a psycho killer? And David singing the song at the end, that has to mean something. You know what would be a great twist is that both of them, David and Steve, become partners in crime and they just go around hanging people. Sounds like villains in the making. But let me know what you think. Next story. The messages. People say that events happen for a reason. I remember a while back I took care of an elderly man. I don't know. He was somewhere in his 90s and in almost perfect health. Almost perfect. He was obsessed with the thought that death was after him and was planning his death for a long time. Every day he would reassure me. Death was here and is now long gone. And my usual response to that was, "Good thing I missed him." I said this as a joke, but the old man was as serious as a heart attack. He had told me stories how he had cheated death many times before. Then, one night, the day before I would take my Christmas holiday, he told me the story. When I was about 10, he said, my own uncle committed suicide in our living room, in front of me and my sister. What a terrible story, but it had made perfect sense. That was probably why he became so crazy. I'm sorry. I sympathized with him. I held his hand, but he closed his eyes. One warm June day, he said, my mother and father went on a trip, and my uncle was to be our guardian for the next 3 weeks. Little did they know, something wasn't quite right about my uncle. Well, after they had left, he took the shotgun from my dad's cabinet and sat in a chair in the middle of the living room. My sister and I sat across from him and just stared at him as he loaded a single cartridge in the gun. He sat in his chair humming a song. What song was he humming? I felt brave to ask, but he merely shrugged. Can't remember, he told me, but the song felt wrong, and yet it was like a lullaby. As midnight came around, he told us that there was something that was troubling him for quite some time, and it was time for him to put an end to it. Then as the clock chimed midnight, he unloaded the shot into his head. It made a perfect hole through his head. Holy shit, I whispered to him and rested my head on my hands. He started to cough lightly. I reached for a glass of water and gave him a sip. He took it with gratitude and swallowed. We had no phone and no neighbors, he continued, and the closest town was hundreds upon hundreds of miles away. So there in the middle of the living room, my uncle sat for 3 long, hot, agonizing weeks. That's disgusting. That's gross. That's traumatizing. These poor kids. The first week, his stomach began to expand from all the gases within his body. Flies buzzed all around, laying their eggs on him. The smell that protruded from him was so strong that when we were upstairs trying to sleep, his smell would keep us awake. Flies would enter his opened head wound and stay inside him. We swear we could hear hundreds of flies inside him. Bits and pieces of him that had blown off from the gun had been taken by rats. We tried to keep out, he sighed. But it was so hard. The living room was the center to everywhere. Kitchen, bedrooms, bathrooms, even outside. As the middle of week 1 went by, my uncle's lifeless body soon collapsed, and the whole house smelled of a stench of death that couldn't be taken out. Week 2 rolled in. His body was beginning to reassemble that of a skeleton. The maggots had been working on exposing layer after layer of putrid flesh. When they became flies, they were round and fat and starting to lay more eggs in my uncle. His flesh was nothing but mush, which then seeped across the hardwood floor. Rats the size of dogs would take a chunk out of him and run into some hole. Not only the process of my decaying uncle was in progress, but the house was beginning to take a change somehow also. Not only the smell was prominent, but it stained the wall, and in return it lost its yellow tone and turned into a pale green. The wallpaper started to peel off. The wood floor was stained from not only my uncle, but the smell had reached in and had a huge effect on it also. However, the outside remained untouched. On the night of my parents' return, my uncle was attracting all sorts of disturbing insects. Most of his ribs were ready to tear out of his skin. The maggots were crawling all over him now. The hole that had been exposed from the gunshot was now green. Every part of him was green now. His eyes started to pour out from under his eyelids. The smell, that smell was something that should never have been created. It was death. That's what it exactly smelled of. But we were used to it. If you have never smelled death, then you are lucky. We heard our parents drive through up the road. My sister and I decided to go into our rooms and leave them in charge of it. I listened from up in my room. I could hear them. They first were hit with the smell. Then they heard the buzzing of thousands of insects, and finally, I heard my mom screaming at the top of her lungs as she saw the sight of her dead relative. By this time, I started to feel myself shaking from fear. The story had been so grotesquely detailed, I didn't know whether if I wanted him to stop or hear the end. I was horrifically confused. Me too, bro. Me fucking too. We had a funeral for him. He had his eyes open now. Closed casket. Everyone came in to pay their respects. They never knew why me and my sister were so silent for a while, but my parents did. It was my turn to go up and pay my last respect. His stench, the one I had been confined in for 3 weeks, was leaking out. Some people could just excuse it as bad air, but not me. The smell was too familiar to be ignored. I bowed my head down to try to relay a message to him. Then I heard something from inside the coffin. A voice. My uncle's voice. It was very faint. No one around me could hear it, but I did. "He won't stop," he had said, and then there was a silence. A long, eerie silence, like I had become deaf. I looked around the room for a sign of sound. That was when I saw him. The old man paused and looked into the distance. "Who do you see?" I asked him, and he looked straight into my eyes. "I saw death," he said blankly. His face was indeed a bleached white skull and was covered in black fog that took the shape of his body. I was so stunned that I couldn't speak. His gaze then fixed on me. The man paused. Then he beckoned to me, letting me know that I was next. As the people walked by him, he slowly disappeared. The last thing that vanished was his hand pointing at me. Ever since that day, death has always been trying to force me to face my death, and yet I have been avoiding it for over 80 years, he said. "I believe I can take death on for another 50 years. I looked at him oddly. He was back to avoiding death stories. "But all of us have to die eventually," I said to him, and he shook his head. "If you have been on the top of death's list for some time, he has been trying to kill you in the worst possible way," he argued. I looked at him straight in the eye. "How do you know you're on the top?" I asked. "He showed me," the old man said, and soon fell asleep. I finished cleaning around the house, trying to stray away from the thought of the story. I checked the time. It was 9:14 at night, and I had to take a plane to Florida in about an hour. I felt bad leaving him by himself for a week. Then I joked with myself. If he can defend himself from death, I am sure he will be okay. Then I shut off all the lights, shut and locked the door, and got in my vehicle and drove to the airport. I lost track of time. Really, you have to plan a longer trip if you're going to Florida. My trip turned out to be 3 weeks long. Well, I met this girl, and we had spent every minute together and had the best time. I'm sure someone replaced me in my job temporarily. I even called in and left a message telling the old man that my vacation had been prolonged. After my vacation from the airport, I went straight to the old man's house. I was excited to see him again, both to hear more of his stories and to tell him about my vacation. When I got to the house, I noticed something odd. It was exactly the way I had left it. Only one of the windows was lighted, the bathroom window. I got out of my car and went to the front door. As I turned the key and opened it, I was greeted by the worst smell in the whole world. I couldn't tell what it was, but somehow it reminded me of his story. "Hello?" I called out as I went up the stairs. The smell was getting stronger. I heard a buzzing sound fly by my head. A fly? I walked with caution down the dark hall. At the end was a door lit like a halo. I looked around. The once white house was turning all colors of green and orange. The paint peeled in long coils. I was frightened. The worst part was the smell. It seemed to get stronger as I walked to the end of the hall. As I reached the door, I could hear the flies buzzing around inside. I turned the knob slowly and opened it carefully. I looked in. My heart stopped for just 1 second. The bathtub was filled with something that looked like a gray mass in black water. Some of the mass poured over the tub and it leaked all over the tile. The water in the tub was bubbling, whether from heat or gases, I wasn't sure. As I completely entered, I was engulfed by a wave of some putrid smell coming from the mass and millions of pests. Then I noticed something that made my heart drop to my foot. The mass resembled that of a man. It even had hair melted all over it and bones sticking out from it. Then I realized that this was the old man. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I leaned over the sink, trying to keep myself steady. I had tears running from my eyes. Then I heard humming. I stopped sobbing and listened to it. The song somehow sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. It sounded so wrong, and yet it made me tired, like a lullaby. I looked at the body in the tub, wondering if that was the source of the humming. Then I saw something that made me believe for a second that I was dreaming. A skeletal hand, slowly but surely, emerged from the gray mass. It was making a disgusting slurping noise. It was moving as if it had just barely any life left. Its hand slowly went to the wall and started scratching random lines. I watched in horror at the moving hand, trying to make sense of what exactly was happening. Soon the hand finished and just fell back into the sludge. I looked at the scratched line and couldn't make out what it said. I still heard the humming, but this time it was coming from behind me. So, in curiosity, I looked in the mirror. I saw him. Death. The old man was right. He was exactly how I pictured him. The skull was white as smoke and surrounded by a black fog that covered what looked like his body. Death was looking at the remains of the old man. Then he looked at me, and for a split second I could hear nothing except the humming. I stared at him in fright, but he merely gave me a skeleton grin. Then he pointed at me. He beckoned that I was the next to die. He opened his mouth wide, then slowly disappeared. People say that events happen for a reason. I remember a while back, I took care of an elderly man. I don't know. He was somewhere in his 90s and in almost perfect health. Almost perfect. He was obsessed with the thought that death was after him and he was planning his death for a long time. You know what? He was right. He told me a story of how he first saw death and then died in the most horrifying way. I remember the smell of the old man's rotting flesh, the sound of the sludge made when the skeletal hand scratched the wall. I even remember the song clearly. Then I remember the sight of the man from his stories. The skull-faced man was named Death. That night in the bathroom, he beckoned to me. Now I play his little game and avoid my untimely death. His game that had turned into my madness. Though I also remember a message in the mirror. The one the hand scratched on the wall. A message that had haunted the old man and his uncle for years and has found me. I remember looking at the scribble on the wall. It had been backwards, and it said 3 words. He won't stop. Then all I could hear was the humming and my blood-curdling screams echoing through the empty house. That was gross. Okay, not the worst gore I've read or heard, but that was gross. And yes, it's a cycle. It's just gonna keep going around, going around, going around. I'm assuming this young man also gonna be retelling his story, and then the person who he retold his story to is the next victim. That next victim is gonna go on a 3-week-long trip and come back and find this young man who's now old, exactly like how the other 2 were, or more people were, with their body being melted and decaying. Oof. You know, kudos for the description because that was pretty good. It was just kind of gross, but pretty good. Yeah, so thumbs up. Good job. All that aside, don't let me decay like this. That's terrible. Like, I get it. I won't have a soul. I won't even know that I'm decaying, but that's still terrible. I want to look my best when I'm dying. Do I though? This is why you should always dress like tomorrow is your last day. So you always look fly as a ghost. You don't want to be stuck in a terrible outfit and then you die in that outfit, and then when you're as a ghost, you wear that's your outfit for eternity. That sucks. So I hope when I die in like the outfit that I love wearing the most. That's my only request when I die, is for me to be dressed as pretty as I can be. Well, that was the last story of the forum. We did it. Time for celebration because we finally free. Are we though? Are we free though? I don't know. You guys will never be free of me because I'm in your walls. So unless you like dug me out of the walls, then I'm just gonna be around you and haunt you in your walls. Yeah, I hope you like that. Overall comment on this whole forum, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, I enjoyed it. I have to say I did enjoy the forum. Most of the stories on there are pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty good. Well written and creepy. Not not as much scary as I would hope, but creepy is there. We actually get to listen, well, you guys actually get to listen to stories that aren't, I look into the mirror and then a ghost pop out. Well, of course, I am excited to research more sites. I did mention in the video about horror games, so maybe that's what I'm doing next is I'll look into horror games and I kind of like read that to you guys and like react to if I do this or not or whatever. I'll 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 work on that. And of course, since this is like the first series I've ever done, which is crazy because who would knew I would do a series right when I start my channel. So, of course, the link is down in the description below if you want to check out all of the stories again or read it on your own because there were a few words that I didn't pronounce correctly, I feel like. So, you guys might have not understood what I was trying to say, but that's why there's the link in the description so you guys can go and read it and understood what I said. And future plans for the channel, of course, delivering quality products, whether that be story wise or, my setup and things like that. I am actually very excited for the future because I'm actually planning a lot of changes to the channel and the content. Well, the core content is me reading horror story, but there's gonna be changes here and there, and you guys will notice it. The quality will be so much better that it will be very, very obvious that there's changes. So stay tuned for that, and I'm excited to start doing that. Right now, I'm not sure when that would start yet, but hopefully soon when I get everything else in order and together. Other than that, thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye.